Sometimes I've seen this myself. I've seen this happen, and may Allah protect me. I hope I've never fallen into that. But people will be sitting in the tents of Mina after, and for many hujjaj, just a conversation, right? People are chatting and they start talking about what's happening back home. They mention something. There are friends there together, and then they mention something, and they might mention something about an individual, and that could possibly be backbiting.
That's right.
How serious is that?
Yeah. So I mean, unfortunately, backbiting in particular, I feel, is one of the most underrated sins that we just have normalized in our everyday conversation. We don't think much of it, unfortunately. Just sorry.
They walk right past.
Yeah.
Keep going. I think if we keep going and don't notice them, it'll be better.
But as a matter of fact, backbiting happens to be a major sin, because the definition of a major sin, what distinguishes a major sin from a minor sin, is that there is some sort of wa'id, some sort of warning or punishment specifically attached to that sin.
In the Quran and the Sunnah.
Yeah, that's right. So we are told in the Sunnah that this has devastating consequences in the Akhirah. I wish I remembered exactly.
No, that's good. We can keep going. Actually, this is real on its own. The backbiting in Hajj. So maybe say something like, so people should be really, really careful. And I'll make a point about how the chatter in the tents of Mina is ridiculous. So people have to be extremely careful all year round, but in particular and especially so while in Hajj, and in every other blessed and sacred time, because even for those not in Hajj, those observing these blessed 10 days, greatest 10 days of the Hijjah, just as there is increase and multiplication of rewards, likewise, the sins are amplified and multiplied as well. So, and one thing I'll pick up is, I often feel that people become complacent in Mina a little bit, right? Because it's such a jovial atmosphere. There's this great relief that comes in the tents of Mina, especially after the 10th day, so 11, 12, 13.
We've made it.
We've made it.
So that's a problematic point. But this idea of we've made it after completing our ibadah isn't actually founded. It has no basis actually in our religion. Straight after the salah, what is the recommendation? We say astaghfirullah. Again, this idea of iftiqar, of seeking Allah's reward, being needy to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and being anxious that perhaps
it's not accepted.
Your deeds are not accepted. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the believers as having in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْتُونَ مَا آتَوْا وَقُلُوبُهُم وَجِلَةٌ أَنَّهُمْ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ رَاجِعُونَ. And Aisha radiallahu anha asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about this verse, those who do what they do and their hearts are fearful that they are going to be returning to their Lord. Is this referring to the sinners? Those who drink alcohol and perform zina? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded, no, Ya Aisha, brother, this is referring to the believers who do the righteous deeds and yet are afraid and anxious that perhaps it won't be accepted. So that's the real fear.
Absolutely correct. Jazakallah khair for that. And I think we really should be careful about what happens in Mina. It does sometimes turn into a very, very relaxed atmosphere where all sorts of talk is happening and people are eating ice creams and all that sort of stuff. So something to watch out for, I think.